Breaking, the whisper on the block just detonated, and this one is not survivable for Blueface. Because supposedly, Jaydayoungan is finally cracking open the vault on the real, uncensored reason her whole world with this man is over, and sources are now claiming that Jaydayoungan low-key caught Blueface deep in a full-blown clown operation with his so-called girlfriend Ashley, and that is the exact reason she said, and I quote, that she overly effed Vegas up and told the entire internet she is done with the circus. Reportedly, sis, this is not a normal breakup, and this is not a normal baby daddy meltdown, because supposedly he has been staging an entire theatrical performance for camera clout, and if we are going by the receipts, Jaydayoungan is now delivering the kind of proof that turns his whole career into a punchline for the streets to inherit. And listen, if half of what is leaking out of that Vegas weekend gets verified, this is not just a bad news cycle for Blueface. This is the ending chapter of a brand a lot of people have been quietly waiting to see collapse for years. Now, if you have been anywhere near the timeline this weekend, you already saw the chaos catch fire, but you probably have not seen the layer underneath it, and that is where this whole story detonates. Because Jaydayoungan hopped in a car, drove 7 hours from her home base straight to Las Vegas with a young man the internet is calling Kai Bandz, and while she was out there living her main character life, Blueface was sitting behind a stream camera pretending to be unbothered. Sis, he was not unbothered. And I am going to walk you through every crack in the mask, because the whole performance fell apart in real time, and the internet clipped every single second of it. Every laugh. Every pivot. Every fake smile. Every moment of desperation this man tried to sell as confidence, the audience just replayed in slow motion until the truth showed itself. See, Jaydayoungan did not just pop up in Vegas quietly. She showed up with Kai Bandz, and Kai Bandz was on her like she was the whole point of his weekend. He was picking weave off her chain. He was fixing her edges before the camera even swung around. He was treating her like she was the centerpiece of every room they walked into. And I want you to understand something. That is not the energy Blueface has ever given her on camera. He has never once fixed her hair for her. He has never once made sure she looked right before the world clocked in. And the entire internet noticed. So when the man hopped on live to laugh about it, everybody with two working eyes knew he was laughing to keep from crying. The difference between how Kai Bandz handles her and how Blueface handled her is not subtle, friend. It is the entire storyline in a single side-by-side clip. Truth is, the tell was in his own script. Because Blueface pivoted from mocking Jaydayoungan to bargaining with his own audience for a kiss from Ashley. He said, quote, "Get us to 1,000 subs and we will kiss." Then he moved the number to 100,000. Then he tried, "Share this song 100 times and we will kiss." Then, "Play our song and we will kiss." Look, when a grown man is auctioning off a kiss from his own girlfriend in exchange for engagement metrics, that is not a relationship. That is a fundraiser. And the more he laughed about it, the more the chat could hear the crack in his voice, and the more Jaydayoungan sat back and let him bury himself on his own stream. If Ashley truly wanted to kiss him, no subscriber count would need to be met. If he truly wanted to kiss Ashley, no engagement gate would need to be built. The entire negotiation was a confession dressed up as a bit, and the audience read it exactly the way it was written. Now here is where it gets loud, because Jaydayoungan then hopped on and posted the sentence that broke the whole internet in half. She said, and this is verbatim, "Once a person cannot fix things with his baby mama, he will cut his kids off too." Read that again, friend. Because she is not accusing Blueface of a bad relationship. She is telling the world that this man is the type of father who abandons his own children the moment his ego takes a bruise. And if that is not the loudest whistleblower moment of the year, hear me out, then I do not know what is. That one sentence reframes every co-parenting clip Blueface has ever posted. That one sentence reframes every court appearance. That one sentence reframes every stream where he joked about his kids like they were props for engagement. But this is where the story turns into something the algorithm is not going to be able to ignore, because Jaydayoungan did not stop there. She looked into the lens and told the world that Blueface is out here smoking spice. She said, "Do not argue with me, I do not argue with smokers." She said, "You told the streets you get the top-tier weed, but the streets know exactly what you actually smoke." Now listen, that is not a small allegation. That is a full-blown character assassination on live wire, and it came dressed in that calm, casual, almost bored tone that only a woman who has been holding a receipt for way too long can deliver. Jaydayoungan sounded like somebody who has been waiting for the door to open just so she could walk through it and burn the whole house down. And the man, sis, opened the door for her himself. Nobody made him pivot. Nobody made him mock her. Nobody made him negotiate a kiss on stream. Every single move that pulled her onto the microphone was a move he volunteered for, and the internet is not going to let him rewrite that timeline in his favor. Peel it back, and this is where the twist knife comes out. Because supposedly, Jaydayoungan also went out of her way to mention Waka Flocka and a certain other name, and she said, quote, "They have known about the Bravo situation the whole time." She said, "I have already landed that plane." She said, "I have already handled that." And the group chat immediately caught fire, because everybody knows what she is signaling, and everybody knows what she is not saying out loud. Look, when this woman starts talking about who else knew what, and when she starts naming the men who were quiet while she was being framed as a certain type of woman, this is no longer a breakup video. This is a receipts drop. And the algorithm is about to pump this into the timeline of every single person who has ever pulled up a Blueface clip. Because now the story is not one man versus one woman. Now the story is one woman versus an entire network of men who let a false narrative sit on her name for way too long. Meanwhile, Blueface is doing what this man always does. He is laughing. He is deflecting. He is pretending Kai Bandz does not matter. He is pretending Jaydayoungan is beneath him. And then, 30 minutes later, he pivots so hard that the entire internet gets whiplash. Because he then said, out loud, on stream, that he supports the new relationship. He said, go stream their music. He said, get their viewers up. He said, I am now a supporter of the union. And the whole internet paused, because you do not go from mocking a woman on live to endorsing her new boyfriend on the same live, unless you are absolutely broken by what she just posted about you. He tried to play it cool. He tried to spin the pivot like it was strategy. But every human being watching that stream knew the truth. She hit him where the ego lives, and Blueface tapped out on camera. And when a man taps out on camera, the internet clips it, freezes it, replays it, and turns it into a meme that outlives the fight. Now here is where it gets even messier, because while damage control was in full swing, Ashley, the woman he has been dragging around as his girlfriend, hopped on to defend herself. Ashley said, quote, I ain't effing with that little boy. He is beneath me. Ashley said, might go ghost and call it a year. Ashley said, this is my last summer before I have my baby. Now, boo, if Ashley is saying, my last summer before I have my baby, and Ashley is calling him beneath her in the same breath, we all know what the timeline just watched. Ashley is stepping away from Blueface, and Ashley is doing it right in the middle of Jaydayoungan's victory lap, which means the man just lost 2 women in one weekend on the same live stream. That is not a bad news cycle. That is a full personal collapse in high definition. And when Ashley says she is going ghost, she is not just leaving him. She is leaving the entire content ecosystem he used her to sell. And listen, this is the part the mainstream gossip channels are going to skip, but I am not going to skip it, because the layer underneath this whole story is where Blueface really loses. Because Jaydayoungan then said something a lot of people missed. She said, quote, I have a real life. I work out. I have a whole existence. It is not hard to be distracted from all this circus content. Sis, that one line is the entire thesis of the video, because she is drawing a line between herself and this man, and she is saying, out loud, that his entire persona is manufactured for clips. She said, everything is for clips. She said, that man sits around and thinks what he can do off camera just to farm clips on camera. Which means she is not just exiting the relationship. She is exiting the entire economy he has built his brand on top of. And when the co-star of your reality show tells the world that the show was never real, the show does not survive that revelation. It just runs out of episodes. Now let us take a breath and talk about Chrisean Rock, because Chrisean has been sitting in this whole storyline like a woman who already saw the ending. Chrisean announced she was going to name her baby after another woman named Carissa, and when the internet exploded on her about it, Chrisean did what Chrisean does best. She clapped back. Chrisean said, this is my child, I will name her whatever I want, period. Chrisean said, go cry to your mama about it, because I am keeping both grandmothers happy and I refuse to hold a grudge against one. Chrisean said, get a life, grow up, I am having another blessing. And I need you to understand the strategy in that response, friend, because Chrisean is not defending the name. Chrisean is defending her right to write her own story loud enough that Blueface can hear it. Chrisean is telling him, on the record, that she does not need his permission to move on with her own life. And that quiet confidence is exactly what makes Chrisean's version of the storyline the veteran playbook every younger baby mama is now studying. But here is the part that made me pause the whole timeline, because Chrisean's mother pulled up. Chrisean's mother physically showed up. Chrisean's mother walked right up to the man Chrisean has been dragging on the internet, looked him in the face, and said, "Hi, I am Chrisean's mother, nice to meet you." And he just stood there. He stood there like a boy who was hoping his shoes would swallow him. He stood there like someone who realized in that exact second that Chrisean is not fighting alone. And then Chrisean laughed and posted, quote, "He did not want me to pop up at that house, stop playing with me." Chrisean is a whole assassination unit now, and Blueface is standing on the wrong side of it. Because when a mother pulls up unannounced, the whole game changes. That is not gossip. That is generational reinforcement, and he does not have that in his corner. Come to find out, this is where the story turns into a full pattern, because the same Chrisean who has been fighting Blueface for years is now watching her own storyline play out in Jaydayoungan's ending. Because Chrisean and Jaydayoungan are essentially running the same script against the same man, on parallel tracks, at the same time, and he is standing in the middle of both explosions with nothing but a laugh he cannot control and a camera he cannot turn off. That is not coincidence, friend. That is a pattern. And when a pattern shows up twice with two different women, the internet stops calling it a rumor and starts calling it a documented behavior loop. Which is exactly why Jaydayoungan chose to speak now instead of 6 months ago. She waited until Chrisean's version of the story had already been socialized on the timeline, so when she finally spoke, everybody heard it as confirmation, not accusation. Now, here is the moment I want you to sit with, because the whole Jaydayoungan and Kai Bandz arc has a receipt Blueface did not think would ever surface. See, when he pivoted and started saying he supports the new relationship, he tried to laugh about a certain video from years ago that Kai Bandz put out about him. He said, "Look, they think I am him, they think I am Blueface, that is why I support them, that is why I am a fan." And here is where he trips over his own foot, because Kai Bandz, the man he is trying to mock as an imitator, is currently smashing his own baby mama and raising kids with her. Which means the imitator is not the imitator. The imitator is the upgrade. And Blueface, sitting there in his own stream, laughing his own funeral into the timeline, is the actual copy. Sis, the internet clocked it in real time. And once the internet clocks something like that, no amount of counter-content can unclock it. Reportedly, this is the moment the recommendation algorithm caught the scent, because within hours, Blueface was trending, Chrisean was trending, Jaydayoungan was trending, Kai Bandz was trending, and Ashley was trending. And every single search bar in the country was typing the same question. Which is he actually done? And the answer, if we go by everything Jaydayoungan has already said, everything Chrisean has already said, everything Ashley has already said, and everything the man himself has admitted between fake laughs, is yes. He is done. Not done as in over. Done as in exposed. Done as in caught in a loop of his own manufacturing. Done as in the internet finally figured out the trick. And once the internet figures out the trick, no amount of new content can put the trick back in the box. Every new stream just reminds the audience of the confession they already saw. Look, I know some of you have been saying this for years. I know some of you have been screaming into the void that the whole Blueface storyline was written for clips. I know some of you have been begging the internet to stop rewarding this cycle. And now you have Jaydayoungan on record saying, quote, "Everything is for clips," and you have Ashley on record saying, "He is beneath me," and you have Chrisean on record saying, "I will name my child whatever I want and you cannot stop me." That is not one woman speaking. That is a chorus. And a chorus is what turns a rumor into a verdict. When one woman speaks, the internet debates her motive. When 3 women speak in the same 72 hours, the internet stops debating and starts scheduling the funeral. But moving right along, because there is one more moment from this weekend I refuse to let the internet forget about. When Blueface tried to compare Ashley to Jaydayoungan, when he tried to hold Ashley up like a trophy, when he tried to make it seem like Ashley chose him over the world, Jaydayoungan looked directly into her lens and said, "Boo, that is not a fun fact, those are just facts." She said, "This whole thing does not even make sense." She said, "You cannot even compare this to that, and the reason you cannot is because he is not kissing Ashley on camera, and he is not showing up on Ashley's timeline the way Kai Bandz is showing up on hers." And that observation is what ended the entire debate before it began, because you cannot fake affection under a camera lens for very long before the audience starts counting the missing moments. And the audience has been counting for a very long time. Now here is where we hit the twist that flips this whole story on its head, because supposedly, and I am telling you the receipts on this are already circulating, Blueface may not even be the villain the internet has been painting for months. He may actually be the punchline. Because if Jaydayoungan is telling the world that he smokes spice, if Ashley is telling the world that he is beneath her, if Chrisean is telling the world that he has been abusing the mother of his children card for content, and if Kai Bandz is out here parenting his own kids while he films for clout, then this man is not the toxic king of the storyline. He is the intern. He is the guy running around trying to keep the show on the road while the actual leads of the story are already writing the sequel without him. Peel it back, and this is not a breakup video. This is a demotion. And demotions in the internet economy do not come with severance. Meanwhile, Chrisean is out here posting laughing emojis at her own life, because Chrisean already survived this exact chapter, and now she is watching Jaydayoungan finish the trilogy. Chrisean, in her way, has become the veteran of the storyline. And Jaydayoungan, in her way, is the closer. Which leaves Ashley in the middle, packing her bags, saying she might go ghost, and quietly announcing a whole entire pregnancy in the same breath. Look, I know that is a lot. I know I am asking your brain to hold 4 storylines in the same room. But that is exactly what makes this weekend historic. Because the internet is not just watching a breakup. The internet is watching a whole ecosystem of women reject the same man in real time, on the same platform, in the same 72 hours. And once an ecosystem forms around a rejection, no single stream can dismantle it. That is a structural loss, not a bad news cycle. And here is the meta question I need you to sit with before you scroll away. What happens to him after this? Because the truth is, the algorithm is not built to protect men in this position. The algorithm is built to reward the loudest voice in the room, and right now, the loudest voices in the room are Jaydayoungan, Chrisean, and Ashley. He is the topic. He is not the narrator. He is the news event. He is not the reporter. And when a man becomes the topic of his own life, he has already lost the plot. So the question is not whether Blueface will bounce back. The question is whether the internet will let him. And based on how the timeline has been trending, I do not think the timeline is in a forgiving mood. The comment sections are already writing his eulogy in real time, and the numbers on Jaydayoungan's posts are moving in a direction that only ever moves one way once it starts. Look, I want to be fair here, because I do not want to leave this story without acknowledging that he will have his defenders. There will be people who say, that is just how he is, that is just his personality, that is just the streams. There will be people who say Jaydayoungan is exaggerating for engagement. There will be people who say Chrisean is petty. There will be people who say Ashley is fishing for sympathy. Fine. Let them say it. But you cannot argue with the sequence, because the sequence is documented, and the sequence is what convicts him. Jaydayoungan drove 7 hours to get away from him. Ashley is calling him beneath her. Chrisean is naming her own child without his input. Kai Bandz is raising his kids. And Blueface is on stream, laughing, negotiating a kiss for engagement. Truth is, that sequence writes the verdict for you. Every juror in the internet courtroom has already read the receipts and made up their mind. Now, before you drop this video, I want to bring your attention back to the one line Jaydayoungan said that I keep coming back to. She said, once a person cannot fix things with the mother of his children, he will cut his kids off too. That is the sentence that is going to outlive this whole cycle, friend. That is the sentence that is going to sit in every comment section for the next 6 months. And that is the sentence he, if he has any survival instinct left, needs to publicly address before the internet turns that line into his epitaph. Because the internet does not forget receipts. The internet just waits for the next moment to bring them back up. And she just handed the internet the caption for every Blueface story that will ever be written from this point forward. Every headline. Every clip. Every reaction video. Every drama page. All of them are going to open with a version of that sentence, and he has no counter for it. Here is another layer people are sleeping on. Because in the middle of all this, Kai Bandz has quietly become the most interesting character in the storyline, and nobody is really talking about that yet. Kai Bandz is the man who took Jaydayoungan to Vegas. Kai Bandz is the man fixing her hair on camera. Kai Bandz is the man Blueface tried to mock as an imitator, only to accidentally admit on his own stream that Kai Bandz is now living the life he used to sell. And here is the twist. Kai Bandz is not fighting anybody. Kai Bandz is not clapping back. Kai Bandz is not spilling on live. Kai Bandz is just existing in frame, quietly, next to Jaydayoungan, letting the pictures do the entire argument for him. And that silence, friend, is exactly what makes his position unbeatable. Because you cannot dunk on a man who never asked to be in the ring. So here is the meta loop I am leaving you with, because we are not closing this all the way, and I do not want to. If Jaydayoungan is right about the spice, and if Ashley is right about the beneath me energy, and if Chrisean is right about the pattern, then he is not just losing his relationships. He is losing his brand. And if he is losing his brand, then the next question is, who ends up with the audience Blueface has been renting from all these years? Is it Kai Bandz? Is it Chrisean? Is it Jaydayoungan herself? Or is it a woman we have not even named yet? That answer is going to write the next chapter of this saga, and I have a feeling we are only 2 or 3 weeks away from finding out. Because when a storyline hits this level of critical mass, the market abhors a vacuum, and somebody is going to step into the space he used to occupy on the timeline, and that somebody is going to inherit every single subscriber he just alienated over one weekend. So drop your verdict in the comments below, friend, because I need to know. Are Jaydayoungan, Chrisean, and Ashley telling the real story, or is Blueface being set up by 3 women who all happen to be tired of the same performance on the same weekend? Is Kai Bandz the upgrade the internet has been begging for, or is he running the same play from a different angle? And what do you think happens the moment he finally stops laughing on camera and has to face what the timeline just documented? Hear me out and hit that comment section, because I read every single one, and the next video on this saga is coming, and I promise you, it is going to be louder than this one. So subscribe if you have not, turn those notifications on, and stay locked in, because we are watching a Blueface era end in real time, and I do not want you to miss the second half of the collapse.